Hi everyone, and welcome to your first podcast of BLT, which is Bridget and Laura talking.
Hi everybody.
Today we're going to be talking all things journalism, so we're going to be looking at some of the best ranked journalism apps.
Yes, so what Bridget and I noticed is that there are so many apps out there, don't you think?
Heaps.
And it's hard to find good ones that work, to scroll through all of them, find ones that are ad-free, pretty inexpensive, and actually do a good job at what they're meant to do. So we've decided we're going to do that for you, because there's no point having them sit there in the App Store when we can be making
good use of them.
Yeah, as upcoming journalists.
So I guess we're going to look at a few different types of apps. So the first ones that Laura is going to look at are kind of apps that will help you find news and maybe decide on what story you're intending on.
Yeah, I feel
doing.
like these apps are a really good way to sort through different articles to find stories that are relevant, current, trending,
breaking
but
news.
Also good for you, what you're after as well.
How do you normally find your news?
That's a good question. What I do is I will watch pre-recorded news shows, usually just on the internet. I also use Facebook. I follow some news sites on there, and I will usually also just go on to news websites and just see what is trending or what's just in. What about you?
I honestly make really good use of the news app on my phone. So I have an iPhone, and I'll just look now. I believe it's actually just called the news app. Yeah, news. And so that's where I get all of my latest news from. You can also, on there, you can like search through and pick categories that you want to see most of. So I guess you could pick like local Brisbane news, which I find really helpful. But let's get straight into it.
Yeah,
let's talk about some of the apps that we've found so far.
Oh, and I forgot to say, Bridget will be talking about apps that help journalists put together stories.
Yeah.
So more the practical kind of side.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so did you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So the two apps that I think would be really useful is one called Time Code Log. And so basically it's an app that helps you log or take minutes of a press conference. So if you want to if you're sitting in a press conference and there's a really good quote, but it might be an hour long, it helps you. It basically, every time you hit enter, it automatically writes down the current time code. So then when you're going back and you don't have much time, you can just go, oh, this was at so-and-so time. Now, the reason I liked the idea of this was because I've recently just done my television and radio practical assessment, and the same with Laura. Mm-hmm. And I did actually end up going to a few press conferences. Some of them were a bit longer, and there were definitely some really good, takes and grabs from that I liked, that I wanted to use. But of course, coming back and trying to get it all organised to put into your package and go live, it's really time consuming going and listening through or taking a guess at where it was.
Yeah, and you know in your head that they said something, but you just can't remember where, or it takes so long to look through the whole interview to find it.
So I thought that one was really good. And the second one that I think is really interesting and practical more so is called Tape-A-Call. And it's an app that's used for recording phone interviews. It is a paid app, and I think it is mainly used overseas. So it says here that it costs €9 in the App Store. I don't know what that is. What's that in Australian dollars? Do you know?
Isn't that like times 1.5 almost?
So
it would be about,
I guess it depends on the dollar, but
about like $13.50 or something.
Yeah, so look, it's not too expensive, but I guess if you're a student, a student like us, it's
wanting to pay for
that. But they do say it's definitely worth the money. It's really useful and convenient. So it says on the actual app website that it helps you record the calls that you're already on or calls you're about to make. And once you're done, the recordings will just show up for you, ready to share or save, depending on what you're wanting to do with them. So I think that's a really good one. Obviously, we're at the point in our degree where we're doing a lot of interviewing, over the phone interviews. And you mentioned before that it can be really hard to...
Yeah, I usually just do it on my laptop, and it's hard because I have to have my laptop open, my phone open. I've got to put my person I'm speaking to on speaker, and sometimes the recordings don't work, and that's really frustrating because you don't want to have to call them back and do it all again. and sometimes they can't hear you properly, and yeah, having an app would just make the process a whole lot easier.
Yeah, so I think they're two really practical and useful apps, but maybe now we'll have a look at the apps that you can use to try and find your news.
So the two that I found that I think sound really good, apart from, like Bridget said, just the apps on your phone, there's one called Flipboard. And so basically what it does is it's got all your news stories on there, you know, you can save them, it's got all the topics, just like a basic kind of news app. But this one, it's in a magazine style like aesthetic, and I think that's just wonderful. I love the flipping of pages when some sites have like a pretend kind of online magazine. I love that idea, so having that on an app, I think that sounds great. So it'd be interesting to see what stories are on there though. It sounds kind of limited. So I'll be interested to see if it has a lot of content. And the second one is called Feedly. And according to this website, once you start using Feedly, you won't be able to live without it. So we'll see if that's true. And it just says that it gives you a really quick overview of what's going on for the day. And it's also easy to save articles that you want to come back and read later.
Which is definitely super useful.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think there are 4 really practical apps that are really useful for working journalists or students. Some of those we're not going to be able to use, but we are going to find
some free versions.
Yeah, some good alternatives and bring them to you in the following weeks.
Yeah,
and give you a bit of feedback.
We'll be testing out 2 of them in the meantime, and we'll come back to you with our little review of how we think they went.
Okay, so until next time.
We'll catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.